Char Technologies is a developer and operator of high-temperature pyrolysis systems to produce renewable natural gas, green hydrogen, and biochar from wood and other waste products. The company just announced that the BMI Group, a construction and infrastructure company, has invested $8 million in Char's Thorough renewable energy facility in Southern Ontario. We've got Andrew White, CEO of Char Technologies, and Paul Veldman, CEO of the BMI Group, here to discuss the investment and opportunities for Char's pyrolysis technology at Thorough, as well as other projects, potentially. I'm Martin Gago with Market Radius Research. Please remember, this is neither recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Andrew, Paul, thanks for joining us and congrats on the news.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much, Martin.
All right. Just to sort of to set the table here a bit, why don't you tell us a little bit about the project itself, maybe a bit on the technology, and then we'll get into the investment and what it means and what comes next.
Yeah, absolutely happy to. And we'll keep it as a quick reminder for those who may be new to the story, those that need a refresher. Our technology is called high temperature pyrolysis. So basically all that means is we're taking feedstock, and in our case, it's wood waste. So think shipping pallets or wood chips or sawdust or bark or that type of thing. We're heating it up to high temperature without any oxygen. So it's in a reactor, no oxygen. Without oxygen, nothing burns, but it can crack apart into different components. One of those components is a solid carbon we call biocarbon. We use that for a substitute for steelmaking coal. So as heavy industry looks to decarbonize, they can swap out coal for our biocarbon. The second product we create through this high temperature cracking or pyrolysis is a gas. And so we can convert that gas into renewable natural gas, inject it into the pipeline, and get long-term, 20-year offtake agreements for this renewable natural gas at pretty substantial premiums to what fossil natural gas goes for. And again, it's helping those users of natural gas go down a pathway of decarbonization. So that's the technology. How we're applying it in Thorold is we're approaching Thorold as a two-phase project. So phase one will be converting woody biomass into biocarbons. And that's what this announcement is really all about, is finishing the execution on that phase. The second phase is adding in the renewable natural gas piece. So creating the renewable natural gas, injecting it into the pipeline and selling it to gas utilities in Canada.
All right. And Paul, the BMI Group is funding a portion or an equity portion of the Thorough project. Can you please tell us about this investment and as well as about the BMI Group? Who are you?
Yeah, sure. Happy to do it, Martin. Thank you for having us. Actually, we've been very known to Char, or know of Andrew, even I think 10 years ago, Andrew, when you first started out. They've been a tenant of ours in Thorold. So for the last 2-3 years, we've been observing their progress, and very pleasantly so, and supporting them through the building that they're in and the infrastructure that surrounds it. And as we've seen what they were doing and the direction they were moving, and as our portfolio was growing as the BMI Group, which is predominantly the development of large-scale industrial assets. So for context, we own approximately 7 former paper mill sites between Ontario, Quebec, Michigan, and aggressively looking to purchase more here in the years to come. It just became apparent that we would be a great fit as a partner on the Thorold project. And so, all the parts and pieces were there. There was a gap to close on a near $20 million project. And we stepped up and said this would be the right time for us to contribute, not only through capital, but also through our construction arm to accelerate, in our view, and finish phase one before the year is out. So we've got teams on site, from excavators to engineers to pipe fitters. As we speak, as we chat here, others are working there and ensuring that this project gets completed. And then most certainly also very interested in the phase 2 of this project and to push that through next year. So as a group, Thorold is what we call site number 1, but we're actively already working with Char on a variety of sites, both that we already own and others that we've announced we'll be acquiring. For example, in Espanola, Ontario, there's a site there that's just perfectly suited to essentially do another development with Char on. So yes, this is about, really getting vested into the process and together with Char, building out a pipeline of projects in the years to come.
Wow. You mentioned the BMI Group. I know very little about it. Can you, you said you've owned several industrial sites across, I guess, Ontario or elsewhere. Can you just what is the size or scale of the BMI Group?
Yeah, good question. We started in business, the BMI Group, really the acronym Betterment, Mobilization, and Impact is what we stand for. Started its business some 24 years ago. The 3 brothers, so Justice, John, and myself, started in landscape construction, as we say, with a wheelbarrow, a pickup truck, 6 hands and feet. Away we went, applying our training that we got in the Netherlands from where we are originally. And away we went. That's a business still operating today in southwestern Ontario called Cortland Landscape and Grounds, but that evolved over time. So when Toyota came to Woodstock and announced the construction of the now Toyota Motor Manufacturing facility there, my brother Justice was introduced to that project, and we're always proud to say we were the first on the property to remove the dirt and the trees from that site, to the very last doing the deep clean for Walbridge McKay Cocker at that time. And we got our feet wet in industrial sort of participation of large scale projects, and also seeing a high degree of materials leave that site, like pallets and wood, as well as metals and other recycling materials. And that piqued our interest. What are folks doing with that material? It's where we originally got to know Andrew, actually, in his very, very early days. Traveled to Europe a lot at that time to look at other alternative technologies, and sort of found our way in terms of, I guess, recycled materials into, where do they come from, either industry or scrap yards, but also reclamation projects of large industrial sites. So we bought our first large-scale project in 2012, and have since grown the company to being approximately 300 people this year, mostly in sort of management discipline across about 30 projects. And for an example, in a year last year, I think we vested about 200 million Canadian dollars into those projects. Some smaller, some larger investments. We'll do quite a bit more than that this year, alongside our investment partner business, EQ, out of the Netherlands. So we've sort of gone back to our roots. We have an investment group there that supports our growth. About, like I said, 300 staff here in Canada, and it's still the 3 brothers together, Justice, John, and myself.
All right. Going back to the Thorold project itself, you're investing $8 million in equity into the project. And actually, just to back up a bit, you've already invested $2 million, I believe, in Char itself. And I just want to clarify, these are 2 different investments. You're an equity holder of Char, but the project is distinct and you own a separate portion of the Thorold project itself, right?
That's correct. Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned. Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just going to say the $8 million represents a 50% interest in the project specifically.
Okay, that's a 50% equity ownership, and Char holds the other 50%?
Correct.
All right. And then you mentioned $20 million. Is that the value of the Thorold project itself? So the remainder being made up of, I don't know, debt and maybe government funding or other elements?
Yeah, so the Thorold project, again, with the 2 phases, so 20 million represents the first phase, so that's producing biocarbon. The second phase pushes us closer to 50, but the investment and the construction and everything that the BMI Group is supporting and Char's equipment that we're putting in, we're pretty much there on an equity contribution perspective, even for phase two. So phase two will need a tiny equity top up. We're talking the range of $2 million. And then the balance of the phase two funding would come from debt. So, from the equity perspective, we're pretty well there. From the equity perspective, we have what we need to get to phase one biocarbon production, and we'll layer on that non-recourse project debt for the balance of the funding to get phase two up and running and operational. But through the investment and the work that the BMI Group is doing, like I said, the equity is there, but we're also de-risking pretty significant elements of the project deployment. A lot of the heavy civil and mechanical work is on the front end of the plant where we're processing and accepting woody biomass. When it comes to the renewable natural gas, yeah, that's probably the most complicated from the process side, but from a construction perspective, we're just a couple of skids and some pipe work. So this really de-risks it for the lender as well, which is enormously helpful to accelerate the path to get the full project, phase one, phase two, done as quickly as we can here.
Char has been working on the Thorough project for a while and invested a lot of time and effort and money as well into it. Char doesn't have to write any more checks per se for their 50%. You're in, and then the remainder comes from debt or other to hit the $20 million. Char doesn't have to write any more checks at this point?
Correct. So we're contributing, obviously, all the work we've done to date, all the equipment we've purchased to date, our engineering capacity, capabilities, etc. We've previously talked about government funding that's come in to help support the project along the way, which we're enormously grateful for. But that's correct. We don't have any additional cash contributions required for the balance of phase one here.
All right. And then after phase one, you'll be selling the biocarbon or the biochar. So you'll have a revenue stream and profits at that point, and then that'll help fund the debt portion and de-risk it for phase two, getting the renewable natural gas going. Is that right?
Yeah. So the real revenue driver, and what we've always said is the real revenue driver is on the gas piece. That's the most sort of exciting piece that moves this project. We do get revenue and we do get margin from the biocarbon as well. And so what that does from the lender's perspective is now it's not an all or nothing. The gas has got to work or not. And if it doesn't, then we can't service the debt, which makes it harder to get the debt. We're obviously very confident in the ability to move this project forward. The BMI Group is, as we talked about, as Paul said, they've been watching the development, so they're comfortable to come in as well. But lenders are always very, very hesitant. So to your point about the revenue from the biocarbon, is it creates a debt service kind of floor. So that really, again, helps move the needle on getting that debt package in and signed, because from the lender's very conservative non-recourse project lender perspective and lens, this project can still support the debt service as we're building out the gas phase. And so we have our confidence in building it, but we're also able to convince lenders who have a very conservative viewpoint on debt service that we can support that debt from this phase one. So it's enormously helpful, again, for that end goal of getting to gas production as quickly as we can. And ultimately then being the first woody biomass to renewable natural gas project in North America that's operating and injecting in the grid and helping with all of these enormously important decarbonization targets of the gas utilities here in Canada.
And yeah, as you're saying, it's a huge de-risking event where you've got everything working except the final natural gas phase, which is significant in capital. Seems to be that part's going to be working. So the risk of the natural gas not working after phase one is pretty low, I think.
Yeah, we're very confident.
Yeah. All right. What is the rough timeline? And what milestones should we be expecting until, I guess, you have to lock down the first part of the debt financing? begin construction and then complete construction and so forth? What kind of timeline should people be watching for or looking out for?
Yeah, so, and it's important to keep in mind that while we talk about the project in 2 phases, we're not waiting for phase 1 to be complete before progressing on phase 2.
Okay.
So when we talk about phase 1 milestones, I was at the site yesterday, and the rebar for the concrete pads was being delivered. I think we're pouring next week, and pads will be ready to accept equipment kind of by the end of the month. So, as Paul mentioned, graders and jackhammers and everything's on site there, progressing the project as we speak. So we're aiming to have carbon production before the end of the calendar year. So that's the plan we're working with BMI and their industrial construction group on. In parallel, we're approaching our debt providers. They will be getting their investment memo, looking to close that debt towards the end of the summer, so that we can continue to progress the renewable natural gas piece. We're working with Enbridge on the injection station, so that can continue to progress. So really, it's from a milestone perspective, it's obviously completion of phase 1 and the major milestones of civil work being completed, mechanical installation being completed, commissioning and operations of phase 1. For phase 2, it's some of these other milestones of term sheet and definitive agreement on debt provider, even with potentially conditions precedent, but having that debt in place, offtake agreements for the RNG fully executed, injection station construction starting, and of course the construction and procurement on the gas equipment as well. So like I said, these 2 projects are running in parallel.
Gotcha. And
maybe I'll just add to that quickly, Martin, because I probably sent Andrew about 4 emails this morning just around phase 2. We are extremely bullish, so I'm confident we'll close the equity gap on the requirement for phase 2. And just to put a pin on what Andrew's saying, my team spun up on providing LCs to Enbridge on the injection station, water treatment process, and ensuring that that's all advancing. So we're looking at every single long lead item today, even as BMI, even though we're not fully baked on that yet with Andrew. I'm very confident we're going to get to phase 2, and we're fully committed to seeing this project built. Not just phase 1, but phase 2 is of paramount importance to us. So I don't know if Andrew wants to speak to timing. Certainly I know what my timeline is in terms of what we hope to accomplish for gas production and injection into the grid. But I'll let Andrew be the last word on that. But just to say, we're full steam ahead.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Paul. And actually, Paul's comment reminded me, and maybe important for your viewers, Martin, is that we pre-recorded this before the press release went out. So everything we're talking about yesterday, today, and tomorrow is around June 5th. So depending on when we put the press release and this video gets released, we may already be placing equipment on the pads because we are moving that quickly. To follow up on Paul's comment, we're targeting gas commissioning next summer. So we're doing everything we can to get into procurement so that gas equipment can be on site in calendar Q3 and ideally injecting by the end of calendar Q3. And we're going to be sprinting to do our best to get that equipment on site and servicing that target.
And sorry, calendar Q3 2023.
2026.
Sorry.
2023 would have been amazing.
Yes.
But unfortunately,
only we could go back in time.
Yeah.
I think we're stuck with 26. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So Q3 2026. Okay, you've talked to the key elements to make this work are the financing. You're talking about hopefully in the near term getting offtake agreements. What about feedstock agreements? You need something to fuel the beast of the waste products. How is that locked down? Where are we on the ongoing supply of natural wood products to feed the process?
Yeah, it's a good question, and the short answer is we've been working with Walker Environmental, which is, less than a kilometer from the Thorold site. And the feedstock types that they're able to deliver to us, one being in Southern Ontario, there's a greater abundance of wood waste. So think of things like shipping pallets that are, nice clean wood, but, not directly from forestry. But through their subsidiary Growbark, they're also able to bring forestry biomass from the near north down south, which they're already doing. They already have the logistics chains in place. So we have a interim agreement on supply as we're getting through kind of the commissioning and production phases. And then as we move into full on production, we have we'll call it an execution ready contract for longer term fixed supply of woody biomass into the plant. And that's crucial. That's always crucial for these projects.
For sure.
And just to add to that, we know the Walker Group quite well. I mean, they're essentially our neighbor in Thorold, for those not aware. So, I could, on a good day, we could see them down the road. And we've had multiple meetings around this issue, Martin, as well, just in terms of logistics and feedstock supply. So all of that, practically speaking, is moving along very well. And they're a great partner to have, especially in the Niagara region. Also an innovative company vested into, many various technologies. And so just a great regional partner to contribute towards this most exciting project.
Absolutely.
All right. I think we've covered the main topics on the Thorough project. I have something else to ask, but are there any elements we still need to discuss on Thorough, or have we hit everything?
I mean, from my perspective, I think, Martin, we've hit everything in that with this new collaborative relationship with BMI Group, we've got all the pieces now in place to build and execute and get this plant into production, leveraging, our technology expertise with Paul and the BMI Group's expertise at sort of this industrial site redevelopment, construction, moving things forward, and of course the capital contribution. So it's a fantastic opportunity to get this project fully operational and running in a pretty short amount of time.
All right.
One thing I would add, because, don't talk about that a lot, but one of the things that we as a group are extremely excited about in terms of Char Technologies is their incredible work as it relates to PFAS destruction. So we're watching very, very closely the work that they're doing in the US. I think that's, most interesting. PFAS, a global problem. And it turns out that each and every one of our paper mills that we have acquired has water effluent treatment plants attached to them. So where we see another opportunity, and Andrew and I have a lot of work to do to really understand and develop this more, but our water treatment plant basic infrastructure could be a feeder to that technology as it's developed with Synagro down in the US, and actually become centers of excellence for PFAS destruction. So, we're actively in discussions around that point, and I would say are equally excited about that as we are about, gas production and biocarbon production. So, the expanse of the application of the technology, the global problem that PFOA is, and where Andrew's team is showing real promise in the destruction of that through that pilot plant now being built with Synagro is equally important, exciting for us to be part of.
All right. Well, go ahead.
Martin, maybe just to elaborate quickly, because we've been only talking about Thorold and project development and biocarbon and RNG, which is all very exciting to us. The PFAS project we have with Synagro, so we commissioned it, did a great tour. It was a large water conference, and we toured around about 55 experts in water and wastewater processing down there. And now the system's operating for 6 months under a special environmental permit to process biosolids in Baltimore at Synagro's facility and demonstrate the destruction of PFAS. The very first 2 runs of making biochar out of biosolids We tested that biochar, and all the PFAS was destroyed. So even while we were commissioning and tweaking, it was doing what it was supposed to do, which was, enormously exciting and validating for us because it's the first high temperature pyrolysis biosolids PFAS destruction project in the United States. So that's also very, very exciting and has some great opportunities.
All right. Well, I now know our topic of conversation for our next meeting, but I just
100%.
want with the Thoro, Thoro sounds like a template, and then you've got opportunities to sort of this biochar RNG production from other woody waste across Ontario and I presume all of Canada, a lot of wood byproduct here. Is this a template? And without getting too much into it, should we be maybe expecting more of these type of projects to be announced in the future?
Yeah,
So let's follow the
Paul.
footsteps of the great Tim Hortons.
Okay.
And let's have the biocarbon be the coffee in the sense of when you say template, look, not at that scale, of course. We won't. I think in our town of Tillsonburg, there's 4 or 5 Tim Hortons. We certainly won't build 5 of these plants in Thorold. But when you think of our vast, as you say, woody biomass in Canada, in North America, around the world, frankly, this is absolutely a template, and at a time when it's most needed. And so we're, obviously that gets us excited. Think of the 10 facilities that we'll own this year, and again, we're scaling that. We're just one person. We're just one company. There's multiple others that Andrew's, I know, already talking to, some of which he can, and some of which he, I'm sure, can't disclose. But you're right on, Martin. That's what we're hoping we can pull off here and accelerate that rapid growth for Char.
And just to add to that, so absolutely agree with what Paul said. We do view the Thorold project as a template, but what's even potentially more exciting is, Thorold, because it's in Southern Ontario, there is a limitation to the, realistic available woody biomass to bring it down south. When we look at some of these other facilities, Paul had mentioned their Espanola site, for example, that can support this template on that site, but bigger. So multiple iterations of the same template. So 2 Thorolds or 3 Thorolds or more, depending on what the reasonable accessibility, long-term viability of the biomass feedstock is, but it's definitely bigger as we go north.
Yeah, for context, Martin, in Espanola, when the pulp mill was operating at peak, they used about near 500,000 ton of chips. Whereas in Thorold, we'll process approximately 60,000 ton, Andrew. So when you think of that, just in terms of availability of biomass, you're almost 10x.
Yeah.
And that chip material is anxiously awaiting a new home, because it's not just what we can do with those chips. It's the chip suppliers that now are having an idle product, and it's impacting their EBITDA bottom line, because now where are they going with those chips? Because it is a logistical part to all of this as well. So yeah, Andrew, I mean, just a huge opportunity there.
Absolutely. Yeah, because the point is you have to be relatively close to the source of the woody biomass. I think I've heard you need to be within, 100 kilometers, 100 miles typically to make the economics reasonable, if that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think we can push the radius a little bit, but it's the right concept, and that's always the challenge with biomass processing is that you do have this incentive at a certain scale where you're just having to reach so far for the biomass, where you want to be able to secure a project with readily available and sustainably available biomass for that project. As Paul said, in Espanola, that number was like 500,000 tons. So it's not like within a couple hundred kilometers, there's not a lot of biomass when we start to look at the forestry operations in the north of the province.
All right. Well, I think we've covered everything. That's excellent. Any final words before we wrap it up here?
Thank you for having us, Martin. This has been great.
All right, excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, again, we're really excited about this partnership now with BMI and the ability to start rolling these projects out, Thorold and Project 2 Plus, at a greater pace, with a great partner like Paul and his team. So we're excited to be able to talk more about it today, and I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about it over the next couple of years as Thorold and others start to come online.
Talking and doing, Andrew. Lots of doing about it.
Absolutely. But we'll just be talking with Martin. Paul and I will be doing the doing.
I do the talking or the listening. All right. Gentlemen, thank you very much. That was really good. Congrats on what I hope to be is the first of many projects going forward. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Martin.
Awesome. Thanks, Martin.